There. Unmute that, and then... Aha! Okay. Perfect. Now we're ready. Welcome to the Spur of the Moment podcast. I am your host, Justin Spurr. So I'm just making sure I can't hear myself. Okay. I'm your host, Justin Spurr. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, the incomparable Jordan. Say hello, Jordan.
Hello, Jordan.
So today, on the podcast, today's our big Christmas special. So stay tuned. We're going to be doing Christmas-themed book reports. In the second half. In the first half, though, we're going to be talking about news. We're going to be talking reboot, clothes in the DC universe, why Rachel McAdams didn't come back for that Mean Girls reunion, and tons more. So to begin, let's talk about Godzilla Minus sequel, because it has been the most successful Godzilla movie of all time, apparently. We both saw it last week. We loved it.
Yep.
It was phenomenal. Not last week. Week
It was
before that.
really, really good.
It was really good. I made a video about what I wanted to see in a sequel, which was basically a remake of the second Godzilla movie, which is basically he fights Anguirus. He fights a monster, basically. And now there's two Godzillas. And the point is there's two Godzillas, twice as much. And I think that would kind of be an interesting idea of... do two monsters fighting each other and have that be horrifying, because normally when Godzilla destroys buildings, it's awesome and fun, and in this movie it wasn't. So once again, we can take something that's awesome and fun and make it not awesome and not fun. But what would you do? What would you do for a sequel?
I mean, that's a tough question. On the one hand,
or let me just interrupt you, sorry, real quick, and ask: do you think there should even be a sequel? That's maybe that answer. Ask that question first.
well, that's a tough question. And you've now inserted an even more tough dynamic into it. On the one hand, for me, it feels more like an artsy piece. Yeah. Like for a Godzilla movie, like an artsy fartsy piece kind of movie. So on the one hand, it being a singular, like one-off Elseworld story, which doesn't need to have a continuation, I could see that and I could be okay with that. Or I have two, and they're a paint by numbers, so you're gonna have to forgive me if they don't blow anyone's minds here. But to me, the two strongest options for a sequel are either King Ghidorah, because I love King Ghidorah. He will always be one of my favorites.
He's a classic.
Yeah, like I said, paint by numbers, right? Like he's the evil, the even more evil monster that makes them kind of realize that maybe Godzilla isn't as bad as they thought, and they, like, enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of situation.
What I'm thinking, sorry, I was just gonna say, when I'm like, oh, he fights, and it's sort of the idea of like, yeah, do you set one, if you're for maintaining the metaphor of nuclear whatever. Do you use one nuclear bomb to stop another nuclear? You know what I mean? It's like the mutually assured destruction idea.
Or I would do it where major time jump, like 10, 15 years, maybe they're like into the Second World War, or whatever analogy time period.
This is, the first one's post World War II.
Okay. Still 10, 15 years time jump is kind of the point. And they have since built as a deterrent, as you will, going forward, and it's like you can have it be the metaphor for whatever country building up a nuclear deterrent for the rest of the world. Whichever nation, cough America, has built a Mecha Godzilla.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Oh my god, when I was thinking monsters, I didn't even think Mecha Godzilla. That's a great idea. Yeah, but you could have it where they've built their own Godzilla to stop Godzilla. And then it could be like the cost of stopping Godzilla, does that outweigh stopping him? Like, yeah, we could stop him with our Mecha Godzilla, but is it worth it?
The damage, damage that it would cause, and the death and all that. Yeah, no, that's
so much more interesting.
That's my thought.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. I like that a lot.
Especially if we're going for like the artsy. for lack of a better term, artsy fartsy kind of like super realistic kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I would see working best.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That totally works. Interesting idea. Okay, let's just go ahead and move on here. One day I'll have a better system of looking up these news items. Okay. Did you hear that they found the master tapes for Reboot? The original master tapes?
Did hear that, and they need a special player to be able to play it, and
Yeah.
it'll be like crisp, basically fresh animated.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Oh,
so does that
I,
mean we're finally gonna get a Blu-ray release, like a proper series Blu-ray release?
if they can get it off of those tapes, probably.
Like
I
it.
mean, I'd be surprised if we didn't.
I mean, it's also all the like the original like behind the scenes stuff. That's interesting to me.
Like what I would hope is that they could use that to maybe springboard interest and like I don't know, maybe finally answer the cliffhanger that we were left on all those years
I mean,
ago.
make a pardon the expression a reboot that doesn't suck.
That would be nice.
Remember
That
that
would be nice.
remember that sequel series they
No,
did that was
no, we
terrible?
don't. We
You
don't.
made me
We don't
watch
talk.
it. So you don't even
I
get to do this.
did.
You don't even get to do this because you made me watch that awful, awful show that
I didn't know that.
I've put it so far out of my memory that I can't even tell you why I hated it. I just hated it.
I didn't know that it was going to be as bad as it
You
was.
knew.
I think.
You knew. You knew. You definitely knew. Uh-oh. I've lost audio, Jordan.
No, no, you
Oh,
didn't. I'm saying no, no. Like it's
oh.
a bit.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh god, I've lost audio.
You ruined the bit.
I ruined the bit. I ruined because my ears cut out. I was like, oh no, I lost audio. Yeah. Apparently it's all because they're making a documentary, about a behind the scenes documentary, and that's
Oh, interesting.
that's what it's for. Next topic. Oh yes, the Super Mario Brothers 2. Jack Black has revealed what his idea for a sequel would be, and his idea was our idea. He just stole. That's right. He specifically stole our idea, and that's full bore musical.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's like
Interesting.
he's just like lean all the way in, full bore musical.
Well, especially if they're loosely based on the game, or maybe I'm thinking of the third one.
Yeah, the third one. Yeah.
No, I think I'm thinking of the third one. The third one, which is basically just a stage
Yeah,
production.
yeah, that's the third one. Yeah, the second one is technically a dream. It all happened in a dream.
Right, right,
The third one,
right.
yeah, the third one's
Which
the one.
obviously they don't want to do that. It's all been a dream thing.
Yeah, I do think though doing it out. I mean, even if you don't do it, it's an adaptation of the third game. You still do it as a full. Yeah, you put. I mean, there's no way they're not. There's no way they're not gonna put in more musical numbers in the next one because of how outrageously
Oh, considering how
successful
popular
Peaches
they
is.
were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly Bowser will sing more.
Certainly, they're gonna. I mean, at least maybe. Oh no, they already have the wizard guy. But certainly, or maybe they'll bring in Wart, and Wart will be a musical character as well. But yeah,
Wario? Oh yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, Wart, the bad guy from number 2. Although Wario as a musical guy would be fun too. I mean, I'm 18.
That would be funny.
He's the guy. He has to be in the next one. Like in some iteration, he's got to be in the next one.
Capacity. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. I would
stand,
agree with that.
I stand by. I think the second one needs to be the Koopa kids break Bowser out of jail, and he goes and he gets his own Mario, and he just sucks.
I agree.
Like
I agree. Or if not Wario, then you have it be where I think I told you this idea before. You have it where Shadow Mario is around and like late stage in the movie, like he's around and he's framing Mario or whatever, and you find out late, or he breaks out Bowser maybe, and you find out late stage of the movie that it's Bowser Jr.
I mean, yeah. I also kind of figured. I mean, it'd be kind of fun if they did Bowser Jr. and it was Kyle Gass, but they like pitched him up a bit so he doesn't quite
That'd be
sound like
funny.
Kyle Gass. That'd be fun. That'd be a fun way to include him.
That'd
in
be
it.
funny.
Yeah, that would be very funny. That'd be fun. And just generally, I mean, I think. Oh yeah, that was my next topic. It just ties in next to my next topic, nice and easily. The apparently Illumination went to Nintendo with like a full roadmap of how to build out a cinematic universe, and the ultimate culmination of it will be a Super Smash Brothers movie. To which my question is, how does that work exactly? Because because Legend of Zelda is supposedly live action, which it should not be. It should be animated. But so are they going to include that version of Link, but it's going to be animated, or is it going to be a new version of Link, the Illumination version? Like, how many movies are in this roadmap would be my question. I mean, I know the three. I know the three that I would do. Punch Out, Kirby, and Punch Out, Kirby, and Metroid.
I mean, they're also you're gonna have Donkey Kong.
And yeah,
There's no way they're not.
Donkey Kong spinoff, yeah.
I would have, Metroid, Kirby, Legend of Zelda, but I wouldn't make it live action. I would make it anime style.
Same.
What else? Donkey Kong, second Mario movie. And I feel like there's one that I'm missing.
Luigi's Mansion.
I mean, it would be funny.
Luigi's Mansion.
Oh, Luigi's Mansion. That's one definitely. And it would be funny if they did this, but I would not do this. But it would be funny if they did this. Is if they somehow threw Pokemon in there.
Yeah,
Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, yes, very specifically Detective. Yeah, have the Pikachu that shows up be Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that.
Detective Pikachu.
But I mean, I always thought that Super Smash Brothers. My go-to is always 2D animation. It's boring. The universe already exists in 3D animation. Let's do it. To me, the best version of a Mario or a Smash Brothers movie is that short with Kid Icarus, where it's like anime and it's really pretty.
Yes.
They should absolutely do that. That to me, it's always been a show. It's always been like a early to mid 2000s, like your Kirby right back at you on 4Kids style of like show. Like, to me, it's that. I don't know that it. But to be fair, I didn't have high hopes for Illumination doing the Mario movie. So, like,
I'd need to see a trailer.
Yeah,
for all of these.
I'm definitely interested in it. I also kind of it would be kind of fun if Master Hand, were the ultimate bad guy. Like, that'd be like there's ways for this to be fun. You have to really go in on the like being epic, being epic. Like that's to me, that's the scope of this. If you're gonna do it, because they cited Avengers. Obviously, they want it to be like the Smash Brothers is their Avengers, and if you're gonna do that, then it needs to be Avengers. You know what I mean?
Oh, for me, if you're gonna do that, then there's a few things. Each of the movies has to have a different style. They can't just all be the Mario movie style, visually. I mean, so like Samus should maybe be like slightly more not realistic per se, but like, you know what I mean.
I do, yeah.
Kirby can be super cartoony. Legend of Zelda, again, to me, should be like anime style, not live action. Is the point?
Yeah, not live action.
Luigi's Mansion can be in the same style as Mario because that's technically in the same world.
Exactly.
But the point is that for me, for it to work, they all need to be in their own distinct style. And then when they come into the Smash Brothers world, whatever that world be, whether that take place in the Mario world or some third separate world that they all get pulled into by Master Hand, because that's what I think it should be. I think there should be, and this would be a fun homage to. I think they did it in pretty much all of the games where it's like you see, or like for example in Melee, where they're the toys, they're the statues, and you slowly see them transform.
Yeah.
You have it where they get pulled through, and they're all in their unique animation styles, and then there's like the transformation as they like adapt to being in this Smash Brothers world, and then they're all the same animation style.
Kind of like when they did. I mean, I hate to invoke Space Jam 2, but kind of like what they did with Space Jam 2, where like they went to the live action space and they all became kind of like that, where they became
kind of like that, but they would still be animated.
But it wouldn't suck.
although it would be funny. I would never ever want them to do this, but it would be funny if they get pulled into this Smash Brothers world and it's the live action real world.
Yeah.
And you have them all in live action. That would be funny. I would not want that.
Yeah.
But it would be amusing.
I do think, though, that the one of these that, there's two of them that write themselves for me, and that's Luigi's Mansion 1. You just take Charlie Day's. I mean, even he was like, we should do Luigi's Mansion 2. Just adapt the plot of the first game. Give some of the characters a bit more depth, and Um, that and Punch Out. Just make Punch Out just like a by the numbers sports movie with all the requisite drama and like make it as cliched as you possibly can.
And I would make one of the referees Mario's dad.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Like it took place before the first Mario movie, like maybe 10, 15 years before
And
or
he looks like
something,
Mario.
and he looks like Mario.
Yeah. That'd be fun. I think that'd be fun. I think it could be done certainly. Um,
Or you could have it where it takes place after the first movie, and Mario, since he saved the city with like
he's a
Bowser and all
celebrity.
that, is now like a minor celebrity, and he
Yeah.
goes and he does it.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say they need to because I saw someone saying, "Oh, is it too soon for a Luigi's Mansion movie?" That was one of a comment I got on one of my videos, and no, because I think if Mario is sorry, I can hear myself. Why can I hear myself? Sorry, that's distracting. Um, if Mario is Superman, then Luigi is his Batman, and this they could not make the mistake Warner Brothers did and do a proper Batman movie. Give him Luigi's
Yeah,
Mansion.
yeah. Well, especially because in the Mario Brothers movie, sure, he was kind of there, like doing a thing, but he wasn't really a care. They didn't build him up or give him the oh, Merry Christmas to you as well, Arete Media.
Merry Christmas.
Um, they didn't really give him the same setup that they gave Bowser, Mario, and Peach.
Yeah,
And a Luigi's Mansion movie is kind of where you have the real estate to do that.
exactly. He
And
got
I would absolutely, literally just rip the first game and take that story.
yeah
Mario gets kidnapped. Luigi has to go and save him. Um, like maybe have it be where Peach has sent Luigi. She's like, I haven't heard from Mario for a while. Could you go and like search for him? Blah blah blah. And Luigi goes and does the Luigi's Mansion.
yeah, and I mean I could just you could just see like a big climax where he has to beat King Boo because obviously the main villain of the piece is going to be King Boo. And I would maybe retcon it a bit where I'd have the family ghosts, and he has to capture them, and like they seem like they're bad, but they're actually like just decent people, and they're good people, and they help him beat. And it's King Boo and the Boos basically like they're like harmless ghosts or whatever, and King Boo and the Boos have like moved into their space and like taken it over, and then that way they can help him do a climax or whatever, and then
You could
it
also have it. You sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it culminating in the big climax being them fighting the Bowser robot suit, and then you can have Jack Black in it at that point as like a quick vocal cameo, like he does the voice of it or whatever. And that's the big
Yeah.
climax. Like I could see it's one of those like I could see it in my head.
Um. Uh. Two things or one thing, and then I'm gonna read what Arete said. But uh, what I was gonna say is you could have it to bounce off your idea there. You could have it be where the ghosts, kind of similar to the second one. I think they did this, where the ghosts are peaceful until um until King Boo and the other Boos move in, and that's when they get hostile. I believe in the second one, it's when the moon gets knocked out of the sky of the village or whatever of the valley. But in our movie idea here, you could have it be where King Boo's come in, and that's what caused all the other spirits to kind of get restless and upset and blah blah like all that. And Luigi comes in, sucks them up, has goes through Egad's machine, but instead of them turning into portraits, it cleanses them of the Boo energy,
Ooh, that's a
and they
good
go back
idea.
to being helpful.
Yeah.
And Arete said there was a bit of a wink to Luigi's Mansion in the movie. That was pretty cool. Indeed, there was.
Yes, there was, and that was kind of the moment where we kind of turned to each other and we were like immediately Luigi's Mansion 2 or Luigi's Mansion movie. Make a Luigi's Mansion movie because Charlie Day's characterization of Luigi is so built and so perfect for that, and Egad
Absolutely.
is a perfect character for this version of the universe where you don't even have to adapt him all that much. You could just present him as is because he has dialogue in that game. Like he speaks. He's a speaking character. So wouldn't take much to adapt him. And yeah, that whole that game was just that and I honestly believe they could maybe make a Mario Sunshine movie as well.
Especially because with Peach, they kind of set up the idea that there are human-looking people that are not necessarily from the Mushroom Kingdom, but not from Mario's world,
Yeah,
and so you could either have it be where Egad is from like a different world, or he just wandered in from Mario's world.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, I sort of figured that
And you,
the haunted mansion would be in Mario's world, or in I should say in the Mushroom Kingdom.
yeah, no, no, absolutely, the mansion is, but I'm saying him
Oh,
specifically,
I mean,
the
you
character,
could maybe add a
because
detail.
in the movies they kind of make it clear that none of the Toads, Mario being a human like Peach, is supposed to be weird.
Yeah. Well, it's implied that Peach is from our world, but they don't specifically say where she's from. Just that she's
Well, it's
from
kind of
another.
implied that she's from a different world.
Yeah. Not well. It's both. Like implied that she's from. Basically, yeah, she's not from the Mushroom Kingdom. Is the point. Yeah, you could
Yeah.
do a thing where it's like Egad is from Mario's world and he's trying to.
Mode.
Okay. Sorry, everybody who was watching live. That was annoying. I cannot. It randomly turns off. I cannot figure out why, and I
Are
don't know
we
how to
back
make it.
up?
Yeah, we're live. I don't know how to make it do that. So that was part two, and that was we're now in part two. If you're listening to this on Spotify, there's gonna be a weird break in the middle. I cannot help it. Why is that there? Hold on. Sorry. That I don't. Okay, go away. No,
Because
don't.
you opened because you opened up the games.
No, go away. Where's my stop that. How do I make this go away? There we go. I'm gonna get this one day. It's really frustrating. Okay. To answer Jake's question of Mario Cinematic Universe, they are Illumination took a roadmap to Nintendo to basically be like, we want to build an MCU Avengers style cinematic universe, all culminating in a Smash Brothers movie. So yes, they're working on a Nintendo
That's
cinematic universe.
that's what they want.
That's what they want. Yeah. Um, and yeah, that's the basic. And I mean, they already announced a while back the Donkey Kong with Seth Rogen spinoff that they're doing. Um, so yeah, that's why whenever anyone's like, "Oh, they're gonna do King K. Rool in Mario 2," no, they're not. They're gonna do King K. Rool in a Donkey Kong spinoff. Um, oh, that really disrupts the flow of things, but that's fine. That's fine. We'll move on to the next topic. That's very frustrating. So, people asked James Gunn. Well, there's two costume-related questions that James Gunn asked. The number one: are they doing the underpants for Superman? Which he's still not answering. Which to me means he's doing the underpants for Superman. Which he should do the underpants for Superman. Do the
I
whoever.
mean, it's a classic staple. You got to do it.
Yeah, that would make a statement, being like, we're doing classic Superman adventures with classic Superman.
And don't have him break any necks.
Don't have him break any necks. And then the other question was, will the Green Lantern suit be CGI? To which he basically was like, no, that's stupid. That was the two
Did
questions.
you basically the underlying question is, did you learn from the mistakes of the last people that tried to make this character popular?
That sure seems that way, yeah.
Or are you going to repeat history and blow the budget on the mask?
I mean, here's my one thing. He's making a mistake not starting the unit. He's still doubling down on, we're gonna do Creature Commandos. And here's the thing, right? About Creature Commandos. I didn't know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy, and now I love them. So, and some of the characters kind of sound kind of interesting. It's basically like old literary, so like Frankenstein's Bride, like those kinds of characters, and they team up
Oh,
with do you remember Rick Flag from Suicide
I
Squad?
recognize the name.
He was in Suicide Squad. He was in both Suicide Squads.
Okay,
He was the one guy who was in both
right.
Suicide Squads. Yeah. It's his dad, and they're like a squad of people, and they fight bad guys. And that's a television show. I think it's an animated show, and that comes out first, supposedly,
Interesting.
and then Superman. And I think that's a big old mistake. You should start with Superman. Like if you're gonna be like, we're gonna do a
That's a
Marvel,
choice.
you should start with your Iron Man, which is what your Superman's gonna be. He's gonna be your butter,
I mean,
your
either
bread.
either you're Superman or you're Batman, or if you're feeling really brave, you're Wonder Woman. Those are the powered three. Those are the top of the pyramid. Those who are the three that you could possibly start with.
Yeah.
To start with one that I've never heard of the one that you're talking about.
Neither have I.
Never.
Neither have I. But again, I hadn't heard of the Guardians
So,
of the Galaxy,
so
so all right.
right, but they didn't start the MCU with the Guardians of the Galaxy. They
Right.
worked their way up to the
But
Guardians of the
I mean,
Galaxy.
I don't think a lot of people are pretending like he's starting from the ground up. He's not. He's building on the ashes of a former thing, so I don't think he
I
needs
could
to.
I could believe that, Arete. So he says, Arete says, they did an animated short with that. It was surprisingly good. And then he says, they did it to save money because all those characters were in the public domain.
Yeah, that's probably
Crafty,
right.
laughy, cryy emoji.
That's probably true. Yeah. Yeah.
I could believe
They did
that.
a short with the Creature Commandos already, like the one that like James Gunn's Creature Commandos, or just like with those characters generally. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, hey, I like things that are weird, so I'm all in for it. If it's on a thing I can watch, I'm still excited for a Superman movie. Like I want to see a good Superman movie, one good modern Superman movie, and then I will shut up about Superman for at least 5 to 10 minutes.
I'd like to see one that doesn't make me just upset.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, the pretty low bar. Like that's the thing for me when it comes to DC movies right now. There's a I just want them to be fun and not dark and gritty and Batman.
Yeah, yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, I mean to be
Like
fair,
unless it's Batman.
a lot of
If it's
people,
Batman, then it being dark and gritty and Batman works.
yeah,
Uh,
a lot of people gave Zack Snyder flack for doing that, but Christopher Nolan had a lot to do with making Superman like that. Him and his brother
you're
produced
not
that.
wrong.
Sorry, you were wrong.
He says yes, it's on Max.
Oh, interesting. A lot of our stuff for Max goes to Crave. A lot of it goes to Crave. That's interesting. I will have to check that out because yeah, I'm interested in that. I think there's another character in there too that's already been in stuff other than Rick Flag's dad. I can't remember who. Oh, Weasel. I think it's Weasel. Weasel is from James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I think he's the character that's on both teams. I think. I don't actually
Interesting.
remember. So with that, we need to talk about because we have yet to talk about Jonathan Majors got fired. Remember last week we were talking about people getting fired? He got fired, and it's funny because
Um,
people are naively being like, he got he got fired within hours of the trial being the trial verdict. He got fired months ago. Like he got fired
oh
when
yeah.
the news first broke. Like they just churned out the stuff he had already filmed like a year ago, and
I
they
mean,
quietly let him go, and then just announced it now.
it was probably a thing where it was like, yeah, it was on the books or whatever, where it was like, yeah, we're public perception is everything. If this
Yeah.
goes south, you're out of here. If we feel like you can skate through this, we might bring you
Oh,
back.
I mean, no. The minute the
Like
this
like I'm saying, they let him go,
no, there's
but they
no
might have said to him, if this looks like it's gonna work out, we're not gonna announce anything, and if this looks like it's gonna work out, we might bring you back.
no. There is. I doubt there was any. The moment that because that kind of news that's a career ender because forever the public perception is going to be did he do it or did even if they had proved him innocent in a court of law that would always be plaguing that and Marvel doesn't want that kind of baggage. So no, the minute that news broke, I knew he was done. Like he's not coming
The
back.
thing
There's no version of this where he comes back. I guarantee you they regret not making Kang a CGI character. I guarantee you they regret that.
the, the thing that I find really funny is about it, for lack of a better word, not the situation
Yeah.
itself, but more the Kang side of things, is how everyone is like, oh, so who's going to replace Kang now? And I'm just like, they're they're doing a story about multiverse.
Just
It's naive of
recast.
you to think that they're not going to recast him,
They this
bring another person in, and just have him be like, this is just an alternate version of
I
Kang who
mean,
looks different.
it's a reasonable fear because Marvel has a reputation of being too chicken shit to recast people and not properly recasting when they should have and when the actor wanted them to recast. So it's very believable that yeah they would course correct and change it so it's Doctor Doom. Now don't do that. Don't do that. Just recast.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I want Doctor Doom to be part of the
Do
MCU,
him
but
after.
you've set up for Kang the Conqueror. Follow through with Kang the
But
Conqueror. Just use a different actor.
the hilarious part is
You're
they
you're you're working with the multiverse. Take advantage.
yeah.
This is the one time where you can fully get away with it without it being weird.
Who cares if they can get away with it? Stop with
Well,
this
no,
like
no, no.
it
I
being
I I I
weird nonsense.
realize
Just
that.
recast. Like if
I
the
I
actor's not
real
working out, just recast.
I realize that, but my point is that if that's their fear or their excuse,
Yeah.
this is the one time you can do it scot free.
Like
Do it.
when they
Do
recast
it.
now, don't find some sort. Don't be like, oh, when he got sucked into the quantum drive, his face got mangled, and he's just recast, and he don't acknowledge that he looks any different. Like, don't waste the
Let the
time.
audience fill in the blank.
Yeah,
Let the
don't.
audience fill in the blank and just like let each person have their own internal headcanon of, oh, this is the reason why, or
Yeah,
oh, it's just because he's a different variant,
but
or oh, because like they've already set up in Loki the idea that there are variants of yourself that look different.
right. I mean, they fucked it up by having
So,
that post-credit scene where they're all the Jonathan Majors and they all look the same. But yeah, prior to that, yeah, it would have been very easy to be like, yeah, not all variants. And they kind of solidified that with obviously the Spider-Man movie, where it's like, yeah, not all of your variants look like you. Um,
yeah.
and
So it's very easy.
like, I just makes me laugh because Marvel clearly the thought process between bringing in a human guy to be your main bad guy was like, oh, it'll be much easier to deal with him because we just bring him in for a day, we shoot him, it doesn't require any expensive CGI. That's
Yeah,
why Thanos
cheaper.
didn't show up a bunch, because he was an expensive effect. With a guy, it's much cheaper to just have a guy come in, and then it became infinitely more complicated. I like how much you want to bet there was at least like multiple conversations where they're like, man, we should have just made Kang a CGI character, or they're like, do you think we can model a CGI version of Jonathan Majors to replace him?
Arete says could always pull a Negan.
Negan, I don't.
Neegan.
Unfamiliar. Is that I recognize the name from? Um, if that is that from Walking Dead, because that sounds familiar. I otherwise don't recognize the name. I mean, I was gonna
I
say
don't either.
they could just pull a. I mean, maybe the reason why they're so hesitant to cast is because of that one time they did at the beginning when they recast Terrence Howard, and Ike Perlman very famously said no one would be able to tell the difference. We noticed the difference. That's the polite adjusted version of that quote, the not racist version of that quote. But maybe it's because they did it the one time and it went badly, and they were like, maybe never again,
I
never
mean,
again.
the thing is that for plenty of versions of Kang, he wears that stupid helmet. You
Yeah,
could just have him wear the helmet.
exactly.
Put him in the suit.
Like I
Put him in
said,
the suit. Put a CGI face that looks like legally distinct but not dissimilar to.
Jonathan Majors. Yeah,
And yeah, and the Arete says The Walking Dead in the show, all of his people say they're Negan. The real Negan wasn't revealed until the next season.
oh yeah, that totally works. Yeah, yeah. You could do a similar thing where
So
it's
yeah,
like the Kang is a title, and that's not the. I mean, that's what they were gonna do with the Ant-Man version of Kang anyway, because everyone hated him. They were just gonna be like, that's not actually Kang the Conqueror. Although there was one theory that he was gonna become the Beyonder. Um, but yeah, no, it would be very easy to. It's very easy to. But it's funny because you when with Thanos, it was like, yeah, it'd be very easy if Josh Brolin turned out to suck to recast the voice and replay and just continue on. No one would ever know the difference. Um, but let's see here. Sorry. What do I have? Oh yes. I think I got. Wait, is that it? Yeah. Okay. What last topic, and then we'll move on to book reports because I think that's going to be long. Um, I have a bonus book report that I'm going to say first before we get into yours because I want to talk about it and it'll make sense. Anyway, Rachel McAdams, she talked about why she wasn't in. They had a Mean Girls reunion commercial, and they asked her.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're like, why weren't you in that? And it's because she's too good to do commercials. Basically, she tried to make it sound nice, but it basically amounted to I saw it was a commercial. Took one look at it and went, why? And then it wasn't until I saw that all the other girls were doing it, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should have done it. I do movies. Why would I debase myself to do a commercial?
To do a commercial. I mean, I always sorry, Arete says, BTW, did you reach out for the D&D campaign?
Oh, I did. I messaged him on Discord, and he has not gotten back to me yet. But I suspect, with what's at stake, cash money, you have gotten quite a few submissions. So, I have no expectations. But I would absolutely love to be a part of it. I have some machinations I'm working on. If I were to do it, if you were to let me do it, I have a character called Tim. He's a druid, and I created him. He's Tim, the Mighty Druid, and his whole thing was he was kind of chaos incarnate. I couldn't do. Yeah, he's nodding because he knows. I couldn't be there for every session, and so in order to explain where my character went, he would walk off into the woods. And my in story, what he did when he was off into the woods was he would participate in what Tim called forest orgies or forgies, and he only wore a cloak. He just wore a cloak, and if he stood in a certain way, you could see his dick. Like it just if he stood in a certain way downwind, you could see his penis. And one of the girls we played with, she didn't care for Tim too much, but he was there was one time after I'd come back, I determined that he needed a new cloak because his was all dirty because of Jordan. Why was it? The forgies, obviously. And so
yeah.
I needed a new cloak, and the DM let me get one. And because I can't roll for shit, it was a cloak that would have allowed me to turn into a dragon and control it. But because I have the Whedon dice curse, if you know who Will Whedon is, I roll badly. I rolled very badly. And it turned me into a red dragon, and I nearly killed the whole party. He's a very fun character.
He couldn't control it.
I brought him back when I played Baldur's Gate. I basically recreated him in Baldur's Gate, and I wanted to be chaotic again. But he kind of turned into a more measured, like easygoing, like I called him a charismatic cult leader. So if you let me do it, Tim, I'll bring back Tim, and Tim for that campaign would probably be in the middle, a little bit of chaos, maybe not 4G's level of chaos, but a little bit of chaos, and I think that could bring, it could be entertaining. I know how to be entertaining for an audience, so I think that would be fun.
Arete says, very busy guy. He'll get with you. He knows you're in the network too. Thumbs up.
Excellent. Yeah. It could be fun. I love D&D. I would love to play it, and I can absolutely commit. So, I would love to do that. I'm sort of hoping. Maybe you'll put in a good word for me. But anyway, Rachel McAdams.
Subtle. Very, very subtle.
We were talking about Rachel McAdams. Yeah, that was funny. No, but we're doing book reports. We're gonna do book reports. I don't know. Did you have anything to say about Rachel McAdams, Jordan, not wanting to come back for me?
I mean, the I'm too good for commercials thing is very funny to me. Not surprising necessarily, but very funny to me. I just thought it was very weird. It was a weird commercial. Like, really, you're doing a reunion of Mean Girls and it's for a commercial? That's a choice.
That's because you can get them to commit for an afternoon. You get them to commit for several weeks for. Well, it's even funnier when they released. They're releasing that Mean Girls remake, reboot, or whatever. That's a musical. That's based on is an adaptation of the musical, not the movie. And Tina Fey's in it, and I think she plays the same character. And I don't know if any of them are in it or not, but it's a weird, I guess, corporate synergy or whatever.
Interesting.
So, okay, yeah. We're gonna move on to book reports in just a second. But as always, this is our section where if we had a sponsor, we would shout out our sponsor. Until we get a sponsor, we're gonna shout out the network. This podcast is obviously brought to you by the Arete Podcast Network and aretemedia.org. Go there if you want to check out. They got all sorts of podcasts of wrestling, musical. There's a good musical podcast. There's a podcast for your every need. They got YouTube. They got all kinds of fun stuff on there. That's aretemedia.org. ARETE media.org. Great website. Check it out. They have been, once again, super kind, super helpful, super supportive. If you want to start a podcast like this, if you want to do what we're doing, they will help you out. all sorts of great resources there to do that. With that, normally we'd start. This is where the Christmas portion of our Christmas special kicks in. Jordan, pretend to jingle some bells.
Jingle bells,
Perfect.
jingle all that.
Now, because it's a Christmas special, I have my own book report, and Jordan obviously has his. And I normally I will let Jordan go first, and he is, for the traditional book reports, gonna go first. But okay, the entire week I was going to say mine was Merry Little Batman, and I watched it on Friday with every intent of it being Merry Little Batman, and then I watched another movie, and that became my actual book report because it was more thematically relevant to my one I have seen. So I need to tell you about Merry Little Batman, Jordan, because I've been sitting on this for a couple days now.
It looks so bad.
It's terrible. It's one of the worst Batman things I've ever seen. He's not Batman to start off with. He's just not Batman. Like, I made a video where I said we should all apologize to George Clooney for calling him the worst Batman, because Luke Wilson is now the worst Batman, because at least George Clooney was Batman. So okay, the whole premise of this is it exists in some weird fucked up alternate reality where Batman knew that Damian Wayne was going to be born, and in preparation for him to be born, stopped all crime. He went around Gotham and either captured all the bad guys or forced them to retire and solved all crime in Gotham. And Damian Wayne really wants to be Batman. Also, this exists in a universe where Robin somehow doesn't exist, because Batman in this movie has this real thing about he doesn't want Damian Wayne to be Batman because it's dangerous. Which, if you know anything about Batman, he does not care about child endangerment. And he's just this weird, like, I can't even think to describe him. He's like, kind of like, in characterization, similar to Benjamin B. Parker from the Spider-Verse movies, but like way more of a weenie. Like there's a gag where he has a beard, and Alfred's like, you should shave the beard, and he's like, the beard ups my intimidation factor. And it's funny because he comes in at the end and he runs into Joker, and Joker's like, I like the beard, it ups your intimidation factor. And I thought that was laughable because he's not very intimidating. And it does a disservice. Like, there's a way to do this. Like, you can do levity in Batman. It just felt like a backdoor or pilot for like a bad, weird, and that's not even mentioning the weird animation that I also hated. And it's like, it just seems like a backdoor for a weird, like, Gen Z Batman show that's not very funny or very good. And
like the Looney Tune style ones, or the Mickey Mouse kind of one.
Kind of, I would say more like regular show, kind of, where it's like just weird for the sake of being weird. I will say it's not devoid of humor. Like, there are some jokes in it that I genuinely laughed. Like, there's a really funny one where the whole thing is Batman gives Damian a utility belt, and it's like a safety utility belt. It's got a bunch of safe shit in it, and two Home Alone style burglars break in and steal it, and they're Joker's goons. And the big thing is that Joker has basically tricked Batman into leaving town in order to bring crime back to Gotham, because he realized that the thing he loved about crime wasn't the crime, but was doing it together with his friends. And so he wants to bring them all back together to do crime with his friends again. And
that's so stupid.
There's a funny gag where there's this guy, he's got a cup of coffee, he's just picked it up from like a Starbucks or whatever, and Damien's fighting Poison Ivy, and the coffee gets knocked, it spills it onto his shirt, and he just looks down on his shirt, and he just goes, and it's just like what it must feel like to just be a regular person in a superhero universe of like typical Tuesday. That was funny. And then they introduced Mr. Freeze later in the thing, and he's just an old retired version of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze, and he's just trying to say really really bad like cold puns, but none of them are very good. It's funny. That's funny. And it's like I say, it's not devoid of humor. It's just, I'll put it to, it's not a story that worked with Batman. Like, it feels like it was a Superman story, and they rewrote it into a Batman story to like, because Batman was a more popular character. Because yeah, Superman has a son who he doesn't want to be a superhero, and maybe you was like, oh, he doesn't have superpowers yet, and he wants to be Superman, but he can't be. Like, the story works so much better with Superman. And it just, yeah, it's just not Batman. That's the thing, is like, you could do a version of this where he was Batman. Like, but he's not Batman. He's not acting like Batman. He's just kind of a guy in a weenie of a dad in a Batman suit.
Yeah, when I first
awful.
saw the trailer for it, I immediately was like, ew, ew, just ew.
And
This looks gross.
I keep saying, who is this for? But like, people seem to love it. Every time I go to look up that, I type in "this movie sucks" into Google, it's like, no, everyone loves it. It's got super good reviews. Everyone thinks it's cute and funny, and I'm like, but it does a disservice to these characters. It's a bad adaptation, and other bad
I don't
adaptations
get
have
it.
gotten dragged through the dirt. Why is this one not? Like, it's terrible. It's not very good. It's bad. But
Yeah, I don't get it, man. It just looks like garbage.
that's I guess that's I don't really have much else other than it wasn't very good. So that was my bonus book report of the week. I did extra work. With that having been said, Jordan, how do you want to do this? You want to do old one, or one you've seen first, or when you haven't seen first? I'll let you pick.
I'm gonna do one I've seen first, and then we're gonna jump into the one that I haven't seen. But before I do that, I have a very quick, not quite to the length that you did, but quick opinion of another Christmas movie that I saw, which was the one that you recommended, where David Harbour is Santa Claus and he's doing a Die Hard.
Santa Claus doesn't Die Hard.
Yeah, I watched that one last night, and I almost made that one my book report because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it
So
was
good.
surprisingly cute for like the type of movie
Yeah,
that
it's
it is.
surprisingly wholesome. It really is. I kind of wish I'd watched it now, so
Um,
I could, yeah, I can remember more. But it is surprisingly wholesome.
um, but no, yeah, I wanted to very briefly touch on that and say anyone who hasn't seen on that has the incomparable Jordan seal of approval. Uh,
It's good. It's one of those ones where you're
it,
not
it's
expecting it to be as good as it is, and that makes it
No,
better.
I thought it was gonna be more to the level of the one that I'm gonna talk about. But it was much better than the one that I'm gonna talk about. But yeah, no, definitely see, incomparable Jordan seal of approval.
For sure,
So now
yes.
that being
It's got
said,
real potential. I said that when I watched it last year, has the potential to like become a real iconic Christmas classic. It's
oh,
real
there's
good.
a lot that I could say about it that I really enjoy, but uh
Moving on though.
we got to move on because I have other movies that I have to get into and there's more to say. So we'll start with the one that I've seen before, which, as opposed to my last week's movie, is a Christmas movie. Um, yeah, that's right. I'm gonna keep pressing that button just to piss
And
you
people
guys
thought you were
off.
fucking crazy. It was so funny. You caused some controversy, man.
I kicked the hornet's nest
Yeah,
on
there's
that
so
one,
many comments telling me
but
how wrong you were.
but um this one is absolutely a Christmas movie. I'm going to talk about all three of the Santa Clauses, plus I'm going to touch on the show. uh so we're going to rapid fire through a lot of this. You've all seen it, you know the movies. So on the one hand, with the first one in particular, there's sort of two stories that are being told, really, when you think about it. There's the cute story about, the dad who becomes Santa Claus, and he was a terrible dad, but now he's a good dad because his son loves him again, and it's really sweet and cute. And then there's the underlying horror story of a person, a man who is tricked into knocking a person off his roof, and then forced into taking on a responsibility that he did not want and never agreed to do. And then is slowly possessed over the course of a year by Santa magic until his very personality is no more, and he is absorbed by the personality of Santa Claus. And you know that it was all part of the plan, because in earlier parts of the movie, if you pay attention, you can see the elves are stalking him and his family, slowly preparing to set him up for the fall of becoming Santa Claus.
Yeah. I saw someone say once that the Santa Claus magic is a curse. It's not a gift. It's a curse that slowly
It
warps
is
the
absolutely a
very
curse.
fabric of your personality, and it also infects those around you too. Because I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, but the wife, Mrs. Claus, she gets possessed by the Christmas magic as well.
I am gonna get into that. So yeah, so we okay. So first one, really cute. We have this
But
nice,
slightly nefarious, if we're being
but
honest.
slightly nefarious if you're an
Slightly
adult and you're
nefarious.
watching it as an adult. Uh, And then we move into the second one where he's been Santa Claus for I think it's been it's been like 5 years at this point. I don't remember exactly. But it's been a couple of years. And so he now has another clause that he has to fulfill, which is he has to go and seduce, fall in love with a woman in 30 days, because if he doesn't, he will lose the Santa magic and there will be no more
She
Christmas.
they
Um,
he has the unfortunate task of making a woman fall in love with Tim Allen. I know it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough thing to do. That's
and
it's
and so he creates the plastic toy version of himself, which I feel like Tim Allen specifically requested that to be a thing in this movie, just so he could scream at
he
children.
did. Yeah, he did.
Um,
That's actually true. He did. He he was really bad about he would just he hated making, which was always surprising why he came back for the show, because he hated making those movies. He used to like scream at the kids. Apparently, admittedly, he admitted he would just scream at the kids as Santa Claus.
and so as the plastic one, he gets to be just an abusive piece of crap. Meanwhile, Scott Calvin goes out into the world and has to trick, seduce, fall in love with the woman who will become his Santa Claus, who also happens to be his son's principal,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I guess he just decided to go for not the first chick, because the first chick he went out on a date with was crazy, but the second chick that he could find.
He didn't want to fish too far out
Didn't
of his
didn't
pond.
didn't didn't do like a whole montage of like, searching for people, like going through multiple people. No, the character only had 30 days to get this done. He finds the first available chick, and then sorry, second available chick, and then uses his Santa magic to manipulate her into falling in love with him. um then they go back to the
I can afford a better computer to replace this one. This is probably going to be an issue. Hopefully it won't be next week. And we seem to have come upon that it's the desktop keeps overheating or running out of memory or something. I don't know. Last week we were capable of getting through a whole 2 hour podcast without it constantly cutting out, but now it's done it twice, 3 times. So I don't know. But let's try to get through the book reports and hopefully we don't get cut off.
fingers
If you're
crossed.
listening
So
to
I
this,
was
hold on, just real quick. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you're lucky because you're watching this in one continuous segment part. But sorry, Jordan, you were talking about the second Santa Claus, yes?
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was. I was.
Continue.
I was
Hopefully we don't get cut off
mid
again.
talking about that. So in the second one, um, he has to get a Mrs. Claus is kind of the point, and so he does. And at the end of it, it's supposed to be this cute thing where he's fallen in love and all that, but you kind of forget that he did it in a month and it was a shotgun thing. And I argue that she did it under duress, as she's standing in the middle of the or of the North Pole with all the elves, like kind of like. Of course, you're gonna say you're gonna agree to being married in that instance when everyone's pressuring you, and then once she is, the magic takes over, and she's Mrs. Claus. No longer has a personality. She's just Mrs. Claus.
Right?
Um, and so then we jump into the third one, which I granted is at least the first one where the elves and or Santa magic and or what have you are not manipulating someone into doing something. Jack Frost is tired of not being recognized and acknowledged as the legendary figure he is. And so he tricks Santa Claus, Scott Calvin, into with his magic snow globe, wishing that he had never, become Santa Claus in the first place, because he is understandably frustrated and exhausted and irritated with his pain in the ass in-law father-in-law. Um, and um, So Jack Frost tricks him and puts on the coat, and it's kind of a fun thing where we get to see scenes from the first one again, but like, they're there and all that. And um uh we then get to see the version of the North Pole that represents the true spirit of Christmas, where Jack Frost has turned it into a gigantic amusement park made to sell out and just sell toys and corporate and greed. And I mean, really, that if that's not the true spirit of Christmas, maybe I'm just a humbug.
Stuff. It's
Um,
stuff.
Stuff and things and buying things and corporations making money off of the fact that you're buying things.
Exactly.
Um, and so Scott Calvin tricks him into, saying the same line and goes back and he becomes Santa Claus again, and it's a happy ending. Yeah. So that's the third one. And then we jump into the show, which I'm gonna rapid fire through this because it's
I mean,
there's
the show
there's
basically just exists to explain every stupid question you ever asked about the movies.
pretty much, yeah. So like it takes not just that, let's be fair, Justin, it also exists to take pot shots at the fact that you can't say things that you used to be able to get away with,
I mean, yes.
because
So Tim Allen could be like,
things
we can't
are
say Christmas anymore.
woke. Um and so it's been like 28 years or something like that. um Santa Claus is old and is having trouble doing things and is starting to become bitter, and so he goes and gets Kumar to be his replacement, which news spoiler alert turns out to be a mistake because Kumar isn't Kumar in this. He's not cool hippie, weed smoking fun guy. No, he's essentially Elon Musk, or the guy who runs Amazon is actually a better comparison.
Yeah.
uh Bezos. He's Bezos. A slightly nicer Bezos, but still
He's
Bezos.
still Bezos.
Um, and so he starts to use the elf magic to, like Amazon the entire thing, and so they start disappearing because it's like this isn't the spirit of Christmas. And then so of course Tim Allen has to come back and basically be like, "Nah, I picked the wrong person. Get the fuck out of here."
Isn't he still in the
And
second season though?
No.
Oh, I thought I saw him in the trailer. I thought he was.
No, he gets sent back home. Um, so second season is about Mad Santa, who is a Santa that exists. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the second season of the Santa Clauses. But he's a Santa who essentially went crazy. Um, he didn't like he thought that the children of the world were being greedy and selfish, and um so he started listening to gnomes instead of elves. And the gnomes convinced him to turn, I believe it was all the children of the world, or maybe everyone in the world, into nutcrackers. And
Hmm.
so the elves banded together and rebelled against him. And like, there's this entire thing where you find out that they got objects and items from the legendary figures. So like arrows from Cupid, egg bombs from the Easter Bunny, and stuff from the different people, something from Sandman, stuff like that, and essentially became an army to fight against the Mad Santa and his gnomes. And they trapped the Mad Santa in a nutcracker. Basically, they change his spell, um, so that it affects him and the gnome that was on his back and stuff. And so then in the show, he gets released and is trying to get his powers back and stuff. And the last episode is basically him like going to the North Pole, and him and Scott Calvin Santa Claus, who also throughout the show you find out that um this was in the first season where you find out that he is the first human Santa Claus. So every other Santa Claus was like the spirit of Christmas, and they essentially chose him to be Santa Claus for some reason. I don't really understand why they chose him. Maybe because his initials spelled SC and he worked with toys,
Well,
and that was all the.
I saw a theory that it was because of his ability to because he was already a toy maker and his ability to organize. That they were like his ability to organize would make him, and it is because you find out over the course of those movies that him being Santa he's the most efficient Santa has ever been because of his ability to run a toy manufacturing line.
I believe they also said in it that the past Santa met him as a kid, and he like had this deep love and reverence for Christmas and stuff, and that was kind of the big thing, because of course it's a Santa thing, so it's always about having the spirit of Christmas deep in your heart that you just forgot of because you were an adult.
Yeah.
And so Scott Calvin Santa goes into the Yule verse, meets all the past Santas and stuff. And so yeah, but then back in the second season, the thing that the Mad Santa needs to basically siphon away Scott Calvin Santa's powers, is he has like this talisman or this thing which is like a symbol of his power, and you find out that it's the mug that Scott Calvin drank from in the very first movie, that the little elf girl gives him the hot cocoa to drink in, and he's been drinking from that mug for years. That's the Mad Santa's like magic talisman essentially. And So they, meanwhile, the gnome girl that was working with Mad Santa runs into the head elf girl, and like they kind of figure out that they have more in common than they do like differences kind of thing. And so like the gnome people are also capable of using their magic to make things like really really fast, but they're only capable of making things that are objectively useful. They can't make things just for fun. Whereas the elves are only capable of making things that are like for fun and for Christmas and like toys and stuff, but they can't make anything like objectively useful. So they kind of bond over that, and they have this scene where they're both making things, and the elf girl is teaching the gnome girl how to make things for fun, and it's cute and it's funny. And so there's the fight between Mad Santa and Scott Calvin Santa, and stuff happens, blah blah blah, and it ends up being, because over the course of that season, Mad Santa is at uh so there's an adult who is like a big fan of Santa, and like is like Santa's real kind of person, and you find out that he is. So I don't know how well you remember the Santa Claus, but you remember in the first movie, when Scott Calvin is going delivering houses to houses, but he's still thin Scott Calvin, and he's
Yeah.
not yet Santa Scott Calvin. And there's the scene where he's delivering the canoe,
Yeah.
and like you see him stumbling around or whatever. You find out that the kid of that house saw him,
Oh.
and so has believed in Santa for all these years, and has like this like I don't know if you want to call it like a amusement park, but like a Santa village kind of thing that he has set up. And so he Mad Santa, he bought the Nutcracker that held Mad Santa, because the one elf that was in charge of the FBI elf person, the bigger one, he sold it to cover some of his debts. He sold it to him, and uh, so that's how it ends up. He ends up escaping from it. Is Scott Calvin, in order to revitalize the spirit of Christmas, gives everyone in the world magic snow globes that show you your favorite Christmas memory. So the guy who owned that Christmas village had that. His dad knocks it over. It falls onto the Nutcracker that was holding Mad Santa, and it has Santa magic in it, which allows Mad Santa to escape. And so Mad Santa is then interacting with this guy who thinks that he is Santa, and he's of course Mad Santa is I am Santa kind of thing, because he's the one true Santa. And so the end result of the whole battle between Scott Calvin and Mad Santa is Scott Calvin is kind of like the world has changed and your time has passed, but like I don't think we need to destroy each other, blah blah blah. And Mad Santa ends up going back to the like he enjoyed his time at that Santa village, and so he ends up going back to the Santa village and like working there,
Oh,
and like that's what he does. That's his job now.
that's funny.
Um, and Scott Calvin, um, the way that the season ends, it's still very much open for another season
Oh, they could do a
because
season three.
he's still Santa, and he's kind of come to realize that his son isn't necessarily the right person to be Santa, because the point of this season was that it was going to be a family business, and he wanted his son to,
Could
to
be
take over the family business.
Arthur
And
Christmas.
yeah, and the point was that like his son didn't necessarily want to be that, but he was doing it because his dad wanted him to.
Yeah.
And so Scott had to kind of learn to let go of that. And meanwhile, his daughter is becoming a witch, and it's yeah, fun. It's fun. So that's my I mean, kind of a combination of one that I've seen and haven't seen because I hadn't seen that second season.
Hmm.
But um,
Now for the one you haven't
so
seen.
now for the one that I haven't seen, and I would be surprised if you had seen this, Justin. Is called A Christmas Horror Story.
No.
It was on Amazon, and I was looking for ones that I hadn't seen, and
It's
I
it's
saw that, and I was like,
it's funny that you
"Oh,
picked.
that's very."
It's funny that you picked that though, and yeah, it's funny that you picked that.
I saw that, and I was like, "Oh, that's very tonally different than the Santa Clauses that I'm doing. That could be
Yeah.
fun dynamic." Um, so it was a 2015 Canadian anthology horror film
Mm-hmm.
directed by Grant Harvey and Stephen Hoban and Brett Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's funny about it is it did not premiere on Christmas.
Hmm.
It premiered on July 20th, 2015 at the Fantasia International
Yeah,
Film
that
Festival.
makes sense. With the
And
intention
then
of
had
getting it
a
on streaming for Christmas, probably.
well, it had a limited theatrical release on October 2nd and then a video on demand release.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interwoven stories. So it's got four stories. Yeah, four stories. And I'm gonna do a brief rundown of each of the stories and not necessarily go into all the details.
Mm-hmm.
But first story is basically um, these three students break into their school, which used to be a convent, to investigate the murder of two students. One of whom was Dan was sorry, I missed an important thing. Um, the framing of this movie is Dangerous Dan is an alcoholic radio DJ who's pulling the long shift at the local radio station during Christmas. And he keeps getting notices of disturbances at the local mall, telling his listeners to stay away. And he's playing music in the story, playing his music while a series of four stories are witnessed. And he is played by gosh, I know this. Um, a very well-known Star Trek person, William Shatner. That was it.
What?
He is played by William Shatner, and that's where I said this. I said to you last night. This movie has two people that you know, and they're weird.
That's weird.
Um,
Why is William Shatner in
and
this? What was the budget?
so uh, let's see if I can find that out.
I'm guessing not very much. Most of it
Production
must have went to paying William
reception.
Shatner.
Uh, I can't tell via this Wikipedia art. Oh, wait, maybe
It should be near the top
Canada language music.
if they have it
I
listed.
don't, s-
Do they not have the budget listed?
I don't see it.
Most of it must have gone to paying William Shatner, if I had to guess.
Probably, if I had to guess. But basically, the first story is they go to this their school, which used to be a convent, and uh, the the sorry. One of the students is Dan's, or they're investigating the murder of two students, one of whom was Dan's grandson. That occurred in the basement of their school years before. Um, the friend Caprice was supposed to go, but she's involved in one of the other stories,
Hmm.
so she couldn't be there for that one. Um, and they go into the basement, and horror stuff happens. One of them is possessed by a ghost, murders the other two. Typical horror movie
Yeah.
stuff. Um, Second story, Scott Peters is a police officer who worked the murder case of the two students of the year before, but had to take leave from the force due to the trauma of it. Then on Christmas Eve, him and his wife and his son go into the local woods owned by Big Earl to chop down a Christmas tree. And during the trek, his son wanders off and is replaced by a changeling. Um, the dad gets murdered. The mother brings the changeling back and shoots
So
Big
so
Earl by
so
accident,
so what does this have to do with
or
Christmas?
not by accident. We're getting there.
Okay.
The important thing is that they don't do these stories like one by one. I'm reading them one by one, but they're intermingled. So like they'll cut from one story to the other, and
Is your
there's
summation of this is that it's
the fo-
bad because it sounds bad?
it's a horror movie.
I mean, yeah, but it sounds like a
Um,
confusing, jumbled mess of a horror movie.
the final story that I'm going to tell you about is kind of the thing that connects it all.
Okay.
But and it's the one that I said to you last night, where it has maybe this morning or whatever I said it, where it has a beat in it or a twist in it that I didn't see coming.
Mm.
Um oh, an important thing that I have to mention, because this sets up that twist, is in one of the intermediary moments where we cut back to Dan and his radio station.
Mm.
We see him talking to the weatherman, and he's like, he's going to be going down to the local mall to do like a greeting with Santa kind of thing, and he is not happy about it. That's important and relevant for later. Um, so yeah, second story, changeling kills his son. Mother brings the changeling back and gets her son back, and that's how that one ends. Third story, Caprice, the one that I mentioned from the first story, and her family are going to visit their elderly Aunt Ida, and they get turned away, and then they are being hunted by Krampus. Um,
Ah.
um during, like, due to various things, and the person that plays Krampus, you find out. So you see this one character who is played by or like earlier in this story, you see this one creepy character who is played by from Supernatural, the guy that played Death.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
He's played by him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
It's
he
playing
he ends up
Canadian. That
being
makes sense.
Krampus,
Oh okay.
and he's hunting down the family and stuff, and it ends up being where you find out that the daughter is like, because the aunt or whatever sent them all away, and she's like, you sent us all away just so that you could sick this other guy off on us, so that you'd be safe, because as soon as we did, you put up the cross so we couldn't get in. And the great aunt is like, no, you misunderstand, no, that's not what happened. And she's like, no, that is what happened. She's like, no, like, don't be so angry, you're letting, and essentially, like, you don't know what you're doing. And the girl is like, no, I know exactly what I'm doing. And then, like, becomes Krampus, and the spirit possesses her, because they killed the other guy who was Krampus. They killed Krampus,
Oh, so
and
he
so she
wasn't
then
he
becomes
he
possessed by
wasn't
Krampus.
he wasn't Krampus. He was possessed by Krampus.
She was possessed by the spirit of
Krampus
Krampus,
is its
is
own thing.
essentially the yeah.
Oh.
And so then she, like, kills her great aunt, essentially, which is a very not funny ending to that story,
Yeah.
but in a horror movie, kind of macabre funny.
Interesting.
Um, and so then we move on to the last one, which, and again, I want to emphasize this. Each of these stories, like, basically it's cutting between each of them as the movie goes across.
Mm.
So while we've been cutting through those three stories, we've also been cutting through this story, where we see Santa Claus who has been preparing, like, he's preparing for Christmas. And he's got the elves, and his wife, Mrs. Claus, comes in with, I think they're cookies or some sort of baked good, and offers it to all of the elves, and they're all like, yeah. And it's typical elves kind of stuff, right? And one of the elves is like, no, I don't want it. I don't want. And then like he's like and goes feral, and you find out that the elves are slowly becoming zombies.
Huh.
Um, and they they're like just you. Santa, it keeps cutting to like Santa's going through the place and like having to fight off the zombie elves and stuff, and his wife is it ends, and I'm doing a very loose
So is it
explanation here,
actual
obviously.
Santa or is it just a mall Santa?
We're gonna get to that.
Interesting.
um we get to this scene where uh 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 Santa is fighting the elves and stuff. He ends up seeing or Mrs. Claus, and he kills her because she's turned into a zombie. And then there's a scene basically where um, he's fighting against, or he's going to like go and kill this one elf, and that's where like it's this flash, right? And all of a sudden we see this like it was like a mall, like the elf that's letting a person into the mall Santa like kind of thing,
Yeah.
and it flashes to that, and we see that he's a mall Santa he's wearing the outfit of a mall Santa, and he's got the beard, and it's all covered in blood, and like we slowly see like what actually happened of him killing all these innocent people. And that's where throughout the movie, Dangerous Dan has kept saying like basically don't go to the mall, avoid the mall. There's some shit that's going down at the mall, and I didn't even like clue in or put into the fact that
Mm.
that could be what was going on with that. So when it cuts out to that, and you find out that that was uh the one that was at the mall was Norman, the weather guy,
Mm.
who had Dangerous Dan sent to the mall to go and do this Christmas food drive down at the mall addressed to Santa and stuff.
Mm.
And he had a psychotic break and
Mm.
started murdering everyone there. And I was just like, what?
That's pretty good.
And so the first scene in the movie that you see, um, is the Santa Claus, and he's the Santa Claus that we think is Santa Claus, and he's got the cut across his face, and he's like all bloody and stuff, and you see the doors to his workshop which have all these lights behind them that are flashing, and he's like, who's there, and that's when it cuts back to the beginning of the story, and we start the anthology of all the different stuff. And so then like the final scene of it that we see is him standing like him at the door once again, and he's like, who is it, and then that's when we see that like the doors that he was looking at were actually the mall doors,
Yeah.
and the lights that he's seeing outside are the police officers' sirens. And in his psychotic break, he wasn't seeing that, and so the final scene in the movie is him being arrested
Huh. Interesting. That what a
or
wild
gun
sounding
him
movie.
down. Sorry, not arrested. Gun him down
Ah.
just as he goes to kill, because that's what. Right. He was fighting Krampus.
Ah.
That's the final one that he's fighting. I was struggling to remember there. He not an elf. The final one that he's going to fight, because he thinks that it's the one that corrupted all of his elves and turned them into zombies and stuff, is Krampus. Um,
Ah.
which is where you as the audience are supposed to like attribute it back to the Krampus story
Yeah.
and go like, oh, maybe it's the girl, and she's the spirit of, and like they set it up like the spirit of Krampus is possessing people, and so you as the audience are supposed to go like, well, the spirit of Krampus possessed someone, so maybe Santa Claus is real.
Huh.
And then you find out that that was the Krampus is the mall's manager, Mr. Taylor.
Huh. Huh. Interesting. Wow. What a wild sounding movie.
So would I say it's a bad movie? Only in the way that like every horror movie to me is a bad movie.
Fair enough.
Um, um, it being an anthology, certainly like you can tell that each of these stories
Yeah.
was dealt by like done by a different director.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why it has the three directors, right? As I'm
Mm.
guessing each of the stories was probably done by a different one, and you
Mm.
can kind of feel that there's different style for each one.
Interesting.
So it kind of feels like with each of the stories you're watching like a different kind of horror movie.
Interesting. I'm never a fan of vignette anthology horror movies. I much rather a horror movie that has an act 3 act structure that has beginning, a middle, and an end. Um But that does sound that's interesting. That's a wild twist. I do like something with a good twist.
I've given away the twist now, so it's not going to mean the same to anyone who watches this. So I probably should have given a spoiler warning.
Yeah. I mean, it's more. Yeah. I mean, maybe it feels different when you're watching it in context.
I'm definitely not doing as good of a job explaining it as I could.
Is
But
that,
those are my book
those are
reports.
your book reports. Those are interesting. Those were different. I was not expecting that. That to me is that's the whole point of this, is to hear shit I've never heard before, never expected to hear before. Congratulations, Jordan. You understood the assignment. I mean, you've understood the assignment every week. But with that having been said, here's hoping we can get through mine without getting cut off. Fingers crossed. Okay, because I got a bunch to talk about. I mean, we already talked about Merry Little Batman. So, last week we said we couldn't both pick Jim Carrey's The Grinch. And I wasn't going to pick The Grinch. I wasn't. I started off this week, it was Merry Little Batman. And we're going to talk about what my one I haven't seen is. But I decided to watch all of The Grinches. That's what I decided. So I watched all of them.
Of them.
I watched the original short. I watched the Jim Carrey one, and I watched the Benedict Cumberbatch one. And all within a bid to attempt to answer the question, what's the best Grinch? Who's the best Grinch? Which is the best Grinch movie? And I'm going to start this off by saying something that might be a bit controversial, but I think the Benedict Cumberbatch one is a better movie.
You can leave, sir. You can leave this podcast right now. I banish you. You speak heresy.
Because okay. The first one, we'll talk about these in order. So I really liked. I hadn't watched the original animated short in many years, and I really enjoyed it. Having recently developed an appreciation for Chuck Jones animation and his direction. It's a Chuck Jones fiesta, baby. He's a fucking Looney Tune, and it's great, and he's expressive, and it's funny because when you hear that. I guess my brain, because I've seen the Jim Carrey version, you forget that the line is, for 50 long years I've put up with it now. That's the original line. So, like, yeah, man, if I had to sit there and put up with my neighbors who were obnoxious and awful for 50 years, I'd get pretty sick of them as well. Would I go as far as to commit larceny and rob them? Probably not, but it certainly would be a little grinchy, that's for sure. Like, if they were that obnoxious, playing music and crashing and banging so loud that I could hear them all the way up on my mountaintop. Like, he's on a mountaintop. He shouldn't be able to hear them. So how loud must they be if he can hear them? I'm not saying he was right. I'm just not saying he's necessarily in the wrong, you know?
Yeah.
And obviously the song is a classic. I kept joking yesterday that there's a third verse, but I learned this week there was a third verse to that song that I completely forgot about. And it's fun, it's simple, it's to the point. It tells you exactly what his deal is. He hates Christmas because they're fucking annoying, right? And then we get to Jim Carrey's one. And Jim Carrey now has to blow out this sorry, I can hear myself again. Jim Carrey now has to fill out a narrative, and the question then becomes, what is the Grinch? What is his backstory? Where did he come from? And I think I found... I'm going to skip around a bunch here because we've all seen the Jim Carrey version. I don't need to recap that. But a thing about that movie compared to the Benedict Cumberbatch one. In the Benedict Cumberbatch one, they're just nice people who want to be his friend, and like he has friends who want to include him, and he's just a fucking prick. Like, he's just a dick. Like, he hates them because when he was a kid, he was an orphan. He didn't have any parents, and he just got left out. And instead of like talking about it, he just kind of fucked off up to the mountain and hasn't really talked to them or engaged with them for however long. But like they like him, he just doesn't like them. Whereas in the Jim Carrey version, yeah, he's kind of a dick, but they kind of are awful as well. Like, yeah, he sucks, but they need to be taken down a peg because they are so
Certainly the mayor does.
Yes.
I would say in the Jim Carrey one, the mayor is the problem, and he's corrupt too.
Like, well, I mean, there's a really funny moment where he just commits to committing embezzlement and nobody calls him on it. Like there's that moment where he's like,
Yeah.
"Here's the car brought to you by the taxpayers of Whoville." It's like, wait. I'm sorry. Did you just say that was paid for by the taxpayers of Whoville? Sure, kind of sounds like you embezzled all of our tax money to pay for this car. That feels like a
So
crime.
is that why there's a giant pothole in the street
It's just
still?
it
You're
just
not using our money to pay to fix that?
I mean, this is a nice moment, but it just sort of feels like we're not addressing the embezzlement that you clearly committed. Like, it's very strange that none of us are addressing that. But no, like, the movie makes the case that they're all awful. Like, certainly, at least the adults are all awful. They're all super self-involved, and they only care about their outward appearance. Like, the mom only cares about the decorations, and the dad only cares about going through the motions of doing Christmas. He's not actually involved in it. He doesn't give a shit about Christmas. He's just going through what he thinks Christmas is supposed to be. And the whole point of that movie is how the commercialism of it is supposed to be bad, and it's about gifts and stuff. But the whole thing is like Jim Carrey's Grinch. You believe that he could just kill a man, like, and not feel a thing. Like he could, he's a man on the verge of just snapping wholesale.
I mean, you're not wrong. He almost murders a child, and if it wasn't for his dog, he would have gotten away with it too.
And like that movie very much frames the Grinch as like being scary. It's very interesting how when you see his first opening shots in that movie, how he's framed. He's a horror character. He's scary. He's frightening. Like there's that one tight shot of him doing that really upsetting smile. Yeah, where it's if for those who can't see, who are listening on Spotify, he's making a Grinch-like face right now, and it's unsettling. And he's a frightening character. Like when he's doing Stealing Christmas, there's that bit where it's just him like laughing like maniacally, and it's really kind of frightening. And that movie very much that movie sort of makes the case that they deserved it. Like he did them a favor and they deserved it, and it very much like it. There's a few things I realized bug me about that movie. Cindy Lou Who should absolutely know that that's the Grinch when she runs into Santa Claus. The fact that she doesn't immediately recognize, she spent way too much time with him at that point to not immediately be like, Mr. Grinch, why are you dressed like Santa Claus and stealing my Christmas tree? Like,
I choose to believe that it's because it's the middle of the night and she's half asleep and is like bleary, like like when you're wandering to bed and you have like your eyes open, it's like a fraction, and it's like you can't really see because you're trying not to wake up.
She is very awake and should absolutely know that. And then there's just moments where he's just like, where he's saying lines from the book, where it's just like, oh, we're just doing moments from the book and we're just like rushing through them so Jim Carrey can do more improv.
I'm speaking in rhyme.
So it's funny because when it came time to watch the Benedict Cumberbatch one, I made fun of that one the first time I watched it because their entire narration is in rhyme. Like all the exposition, everything is in rhyme, and I'm like, that's what the Jim Carrey version was making fun of, this exact thing. But like, there's moments in it. Why can't I hear myself? Maybe that's, I don't know. There's moments in it with like those moments where like he runs. First of all, he only meets Cindy Lou Who one time at the beginning, very briefly. So it's like it makes sense that she has, and she's ultra hyper focused on, she wants to get a letter to Santa Claus so that she can tell Santa Claus that, because in it there's no dad, Cindy Lou Who, there's no dad, and it's just her mom, and her mom's a single mom who's like working as a nurse at night and then doing all the parent stuff during the day. She's taking care of the kids. She's like a super mom. She's like catching toast with like great reflexes. She's flipping like waffles at Cindy Lou Who and Cindy Lou Who is just grateful for all the sacrifices that the mom makes and basically wants to do a nice thing for her mom and wants Santa Claus to do something nice for her. And so her whole B plot is she's trying to work out a way with her friends to capture Santa Claus so that she can make this request to Santa Claus. And like all the Who's are like super nice, super well-meaning, and it's like, yeah, they're annoying with like the lights and the music, but it's like they're annoying in a way that they don't know that they're annoying. Like if you had just told them they were being a bit much, they would have dialed it back. But the Grinch never says anything, so they think that he wants to be part of it when he doesn't. And like, oh, if you had just told them that, yeah, it's that kind of well-meaning. Like there's a character who he meets who he hates early on, that just absolutely loves him, like wants to be his best friend. He's like, I hate that guy, and he's just one of those like, kind of like a Flanders,
Like
almost.
I was gonna say like a Ned
Yeah,
Flanders.
like a Flanders, yeah. And so the moment where he decides he's gonna steal, and also they kind of do the lines weirdly and not in the correct rhythm, but they also in this one introduce they give him a reindeer, like he when he decides he's gonna, his plan for stealing Christmas normally goes suit, sleigh, reindeer, but in this case he decides to get the reindeer first, and he picks up a reindeer who he takes home with him, and the reindeer eventually he lets him go because while he's practicing with the sleigh, they run into the reindeer's family, and he goes off with the family, and he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna keep you, and so yeah, he decides to steal Christmas. And it was interesting is in this version, like he very much cares about Max. Like Max is his best friend because obviously the dog can do more because it's animated. And so
Yeah.
when the reindeer doesn't work out, that's when Max becomes the reindeer, and Max goes to pull it. He's basically like, you're my only hope for this, Max. You're the one guy who can do this job. And Max gets all like inflated, and he's like, yeah, I can do this. And he starts to pull the thing, and it doesn't go. And he like sinks instantly into the snow. And the Grinch is like, oh my God, Max, are you okay? And like he's kind of decent at his core, more than I think the Grinch is, who is an awful person at his core. And yeah, they go to steal Christmas, whatever. And instead of Cindy Lou being the first house, she's now the last house. And he winds up at her place, and he's going to stuff the tree. And they go through the bit of, Santa, why are you putting the thing up? Why are you taking our tree? Or whatever. And instead of it being that her saying the lines from the book, it's an actual conversation of like, oh, why are you here? Why are you taking the trees? Like, oh yeah, because I noticed that. And he says it like a person, like an actual person, where he's like, oh, I just noticed that one of your lights is broken, and I'm gonna take it back to my shop and fix it for you, no problem. And she's like, you do that? And it actually becomes a conversation. And he's like, she's like, oh, I captured you basically because I want to give. Oh, he's like, oh, I need to take off basically. Or he tells her to go to bed. He goes, oh, go to bed. You want to wake up. You want your gifts, right? She's like, no, I don't want gifts. And he's like, what? You don't want gifts? He's like, yeah, I don't want gifts. I just want you to do something nice for my mom. And that's what kind of starts the process of him deciding to not want to steal Christmas. And he steals Christmas, whatever. Sorry?
I think you mean of his heart. I said I was going to say.
Of his heart's
I
growing.
think you mean to say of his heart growing 3 sizes that day.
Yeah, yeah. And so then he does it. He steals the Christmas. They all come out, and Cindy Lou, who is and I really like it because yeah, Cindy Lou doesn't know he's the Grinch. She just thinks he's Santa Claus, and they don't really know who the Grinch is. And I'm like, okay, yeah, now it's believable that he would get away with this. Whereas before, he just destroyed the town and made a spectacle of himself. It's a weird that scene, that holiday jubilation scene is a weird. I understand why it's there, but it's a weird addition, and it's funny because it makes the Jim Carrey version 15 minutes longer than the Benedict Cumberbatch version, which is only an hour 25. And so yeah, so he goes up to the top of Mount Crumpet to dump it, like
I
it was
like
the
that
original.
jubilation scene. This is not pudding.
What is it?
Then?
Yeah. I mean, I loved the Jim Carrey version. I need to preface that. Like when I say I think it's a worse movie than the Bandit Cumberbatch, I just mean structurally, it's a worse movie. I was sitting in my room when I was watching it, quoting it line by line. I could quote the entire thing. So yeah, so he steals Christmas, top of Mount Crumpet, and then yeah, Cindy Lou, who comes out now she's like, oh shit, this is my fault basically. I caused this because I captured Santa and spoiled the whole thing. Also, an interesting thing is in this universe, Santa is implied to not be real, like whereas in the Jim Carrey universe, he is real. Santa Claus is real.
Yeah.
Um,
Real so much, and like to the point where the mom and dad are like, "It's Santa,"
well, you literally
and
see
pretend to
him.
be
You
asleep.
literally see him when he's about to go steal Christmas. He's like, I always gotta wait for Fat Boy to finish his round. And you see him fly across the sky. So you literally see him. And so in this one, he's like, when he first the first time and only time he meets Cindy Lou, he's like, oh, you're looking to write like, and this is how this version of the Grinch is maybe a better guy, and also, hey, even the Grinch wouldn't do this. And as an aside, if you have children in the room, and you are a child, I don't know why you would be listening to this if you are a child, but I have a lot of children followers. Santa Claus is real. Cover your ears for the next 2 to 5 minutes while I talk about this. All right, earmuffs, please. Okay. Tell your kids earmuffs while we talk about this. Okay, because we're not gonna give this away for the kids. Cool, Jordan, we got that. That makes sense. Okay, cool.
Earmuff.
So the Grinch is decent enough to not tell Cindy Lou that Santa Claus isn't real, which is really kind of fun. Like, he runs into her and she's trying to send this letter to Santa, and he's like, "Oh, well, Santa hasn't ever actually been seen, has he?" But the implication is that, like, Santa is like Bigfoot. Like, he exists, but just nobody spotted him. And I like that. I was like, oh, that's nice. So then at the end of the movie, when everyone's Christmas has been stolen, Cindy Lou Who goes, "Oh no, I ruined Christmas by capturing Santa Claus and giving away the whole game. He's mad at me now. He's taken all our stuff to, like, punish us, basically." And that's where yeah, and that's where the lesson comes from the mom of Christmas doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas is a little bit more, it's about what's in your heart, not about stuff. And that's when the Grinch has his moment of, like, oh shit, and his whole thing is he's lonely and he wants to fill a void, and he feels like by hurting them it's going to make himself feel better. And that's the moment he kind of realized no, and then the heart grows 3 sizes and he realizes he wants to. And so then he also has a moment where the presents almost go off of the edge, and instead of Cindy Lou Who showing up there, because why would she? She stays with the mom. Now the presents go over on their own, and he has, like, tools and stuff, and he's trying to, like, rescue it, and he's holding it, and he's about to fall off of the mountain, and the reindeer and the family come back. Oh, and there's also this weird subplot where Max is jealous of the reindeer because the reindeer does everything better than Max. And so it's like the reindeer and his family come back, and they save him from falling over the edge. And the reindeer shows up and his family help pull him back. And then him and Max team up and they're friends now. And he goes back.
That's
and he takes the gift, and it's like he's blowing the horn. He takes the gifts back, and he's basically like, "Yeah, I thought that this would fill a void in my life, and it didn't. I'm really sorry. Here's all your stuff back." And then he leaves, and he walks away, and you have a scene where he sits with it, where you see, he goes back and he rings the bell or whatever, and the whole movie, Max has this system where he brings the Grinch stuff. Max is basically like the Grinch's little servant, and he brings him stuff. And so he rings this bell to get him to bring him stuff, and the dumb waiter pops up, and it's a little green bone, and he's giving him a gift, and he's like, "Merry Christmas, Max. I hope you like it. If you don't like it, I can take it back." And he's like, "Merry Christmas," basically, and they're having a little moment between them. And I really like that because, yeah, it allows that moment where you get to see that character growth of, like, oh, yeah, it's not just immediately, oh, he's friends with them now. Like, there's an actual, and then Cindy Lou Who shows up at his place, knocks on his door, and it's like, "Yeah, we're going to invite you to Christmas dinner." And he's like, "Why would you do that? I stole your Christmas, basically." And she's like, "Yeah, I know, but we're inviting you anyway because you clearly need a friend." And
oh, that's cute.
She shows up at Christmas dinner. He shows up at Christmas dinner. Oh, and she's like, "Oh, and bring Max as well." And so, yeah, they show up, and, like, you see Max is super happy because all the kids love him, and the Grinch just looks over and he's like super happy, and all the Who's are just being, like, nice to him, and it just turned out, yeah, that he just needed that. He just needed a friend, and it's a really cute ending. And I'm like, I like this. It feels like with Jim Carrey's The Grinch, he's like, yeah, he's nice, and he's become nice by the end of it, or like he likes them, but it feels like he turned on them in a second. Oh, and another thing that drove me crazy about, I remember drives me crazy about the Jim Carrey Grinch movie. And I'm not saying kids should do this. I am in no way recommending that kids should do this. But when you're kids, sometimes you have to bring a nuclear bomb to a gunfight. And when the mayor, as a kid, was making fun of the Grinch, he should have just called him fat. Like, he should have just been like, shut up, fatty. Like, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's okay. You shouldn't fat shame anybody. But he was being particularly cruel, and he needed to be taken down a peg. And then at the end, when he like gives him the razor, he should have then called him fat there too. Been like, here, take it, fatty. Put down the fork. Maybe. Oh, wait, what's that? What's that? I smell bacon. Dude, are you sweating grease? Just start laying into him. It's just.
I mean, I certainly think that like when they're adults, and I mean, obviously you can't have this happen because the movie needs to happen. But like someone in the audience should have been like, but he doesn't need a shave. He's fine the way he
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
Like something to like kind of really emphasize that the mayor is the problem and the rest of them aren't necessarily
Right?
so bad.
Like, but that's all I could think about. Is like, if you were in elementary school like that, you just call him fat, and then you'd be like, you just find the thing he's the most insecure about and pick on him for it. It's like, yeah, at least I'm not a big fatty. Again, I'm not saying kids should do this.
I
I'm just saying
mean,
sometimes you gotta bring a nuclear bomb to a gunfight.
I'm just saying all the Grinch wanted
These are
was to be
jokes,
left
by the
alone
way.
and not have Christmas,
I feel like I should
not
say
have
that.
Christmas shoved down his throat. And as I become more and more of an adult, I understand. I
Right?
understand. Not everybody likes Christmas.
Also,
That's fine.
another thing I realized. So he was adopted. Oh yeah, I think that they changed for the Benedict Cumberbatch. Is he's now an orphan. He doesn't have any parents or family. Um,
Yeah.
but in the Jim Carrey one, he's adopted by that nice lesbian couple. So like,
Yep.
why? I love how you didn't even bother to be like, they're not a lesbian. They are very clearly a lesbian couple.
Oh, they definitely are.
There's
They
no way
they
they're
remind
not.
me of one of our moms. They remind me of one of my mom's friends.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, the nice lesbian couple who, out of the kindness of their heart, brought him into their life. But like, also, they didn't go looking for him when he just disappeared. Seems kind of grossly irresponsible. He disappeared off into the
I
mountains, and they
mean,
never mounted a search party.
to be fair, I argue that all of the adults in that world are grossly negligent and barely functional.
I mean the Lou's daughter, Cindy Lou. You know he. So is his name Lou who? Is he just Lou who? And she's Cindy Lou? Is he Lou who? Because they keep calling him Lou. So is he
Uh,
Lou who? Or is he
hey,
Lou?
hey, how's it going, Lou? Yeah, I guess he's Lulu.
Yeah, Lou. My favorite is how the mayor keeps trying to intimidate him. It's just like, if you don't get your daughter under control, Lou, I'm gonna have your legs broken.
You're gonna just one day
Just
disappear, Lou.
disappear, Lou. But yeah, I was like, why did they go looking for him? It's weird that they didn't go looking for him.
I mean, to be fair, maybe they did. They found him up there and he refused to come back down.
I mean, the thing that's funny is at least the Benedict Cumberbatch movie doesn't attempt to answer what he is. Like that movie kind of implies that he was supposed to go to another village of people who looked like him, and there are another village of what's out there, and they all look like the Grinch.
He's a what that doesn't like
He
Christmas.
doesn't like so okay. With all that having been said, I did enjoy them. I enjoyed the Benedict Cumberbatch one more than I did the first time. Maybe it's because I watched the Jim Carrey one and it back to back, where I was like, yeah, the Jim Carrey one is funny and I love it, and it's always gonna be my favorite default my favorite. But I don't think it's as good a movie as the and so that was the final point I wanted
I
to
don't
make.
I don't I don't know that I've ever watched the Benedict Cumberbatch one.
I thought you did because I thought you said it was bad, but I don't. I guess not.
I don't remember watching it.
But it's funny because, well, okay, when they're talking, there's talks about doing a sequel for the Grinch, and I've always said they should do, if they're gonna do a sequel to the Grinch, they should do the Grinch is the Cat in the Hat, and they should bring back Jim Carrey, do it animated, bring back Jim Carrey and let him do the voice, so he doesn't have to put on the makeup or do a ton of work. And Mike Myers as the Cat in the Hat, and have them do a crossover. And don't do like a 1-to-1 adaptation. Take some creative liberties, but have that sort of be the inspiration for it, because I think that would be fun. And then
That would be fun.
um,
I could enjoy that.
but then I saw that there was a sequel to the book, which I don't know if people know this. I saw it in the store the other day. There's a sequel called it's like How the Grinch Lost Christmas or something like that, or ruined Christmas or something to that effect. And the basic plot of it, from what I gathered, was the Grinch has to throw a Christmas party, and he's the one who's doing Christmas this year. He's hosting the party, and it goes wrong. Something goes wrong. I didn't get a chance to read it, but something goes wrong, and I'm like, that would be kind of a fun sequel to the Benedict Cumberbatch movie. Now that I've seen it more recently, where it's like that version of the Grinch, he now has to do a Christmas party, and he's the one who's throwing a Christmas party, and he's super nervous about it not going well. And him and Cindy Lou team up to like throw a big Christmas party or whatever, and you can have various shenanigans arise from that. I think that'd be kind of cute and fun.
I could see it.
So, with that having been said, I'm gonna move on to the thing I hadn't seen, and it's very funny you picked a horror movie for your one you hadn't seen, because I also picked a horror movie. It was Merry Little Batman until I saw The Mean One. Have you heard of The Mean One?
The Mean One? No, I don't think so.
So okay, you remember Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey?
Yeah.
Okay, so for those who haven't heard of Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, that was a movie in which they took, once Winnie the Pooh went public domain, they took Winnie the Pooh and they made it into a horror movie, and it's horrendous. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's a bad, no good, not very fun movie that's not even clever or interesting. It's just like they took the first costume that they saw on Google. Literally, if you type in scary Winnie the Pooh costume, it's literally the first thing that pops up, and they bought it and made a horror movie the second it went public domain. The Mean One is another movie in that vein, which is, what if we took childhood character and made it unpleasant? And it's done it with the Grinch. It's what if the Grinch were a slasher flick, and it's also very bad, but it's the kind of bad that's so bad it rolls back around to being good. It's like one of those like really fun B movie, and so the plot of this is, instead of Cindy Lou who sees the Grinch at Christmas, and instead of it going through her being like, you know, what normally happens, the mom walks in and the Grinch kills the mom, and then Cindy Lou also they couldn't get any of the rights to the Grinch, so they can't call him the Grinch. They can't call her Cindy Lou Who. So her name.
He's the Grunch.
No. So she's Cindy You Know Who, and they're in Newville instead of Whoville. And he is the Mean One. They go to call him the Grinch, but every time they call him the Grinch, the person gets cut off, and he's like Grant Smith, or you know, every time they cut him off so they can't say the name. So Cindy Lou leaves town for 20 years and goes through a bunch of therapy, and then comes back and discovers there's this big conspiracy where the sheriff tried to convince her that the Grinch wasn't real, that it was just a guy in a ski mask or whatever, and she's convinced it's a monster. And they come back, and despite the fact that his wife and her mom got murdered on Christmas, they're still really into Christmas for some reason. So like they come back to town, and it's like, what if the Grinch had stole Christmas, basically, because the town is now not putting up any Christmas decorations. They don't sing carols. Like, she's driving through town and they've got car decorations on. They get pulled over by one of the deputy, who is new and is just recently been transferred into town. And he's like, yeah, the sheriff says you can't have Christmas shit on your cars. It's distracting. And even though, like, if you had that traumatic of experience with Christmas, you would definitely hate Christmas. Like, you wouldn't put up Christmas decorations, but they put up Christmas decorations, and then the Grinch shows up and kills her dad. And there's this whole thing where the mayor keeps trying to like gaslight her into believing that the Grinch isn't real, and eventually she goes back after being in the hospital. She goes back home and she finds a flower, and they give it a really funny Zeusian name. Oh, I forgot to mention the one more thing that was legally distinct but not dissimilar too. the guy who ends up telling her about the Grinch, because she finds the flower. She goes up to Mount Crumpet and she sees the Grinch killing 2 hikers, and she gets a picture of him and kind of like a Bigfoot, that like classic Bigfoot video where it's like Bigfoot,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's like that. So he looks like that. He looks really blurry, but he's green. And she winds up at a bar talking to this guy who he's like, everyone calls me Doc Zeus, but it's like Zeus the god, but it's pronounced like Dr. Zeus. And his job in the movie, yeah. So his job in the movie is to literally just say lines from the book. So he's like, and then the one who lives just north of Newville, he did not. And like she just straight up just says the lines. It's really funny. And so yeah, so she decides that she needs to kill the Grinch basically in order to stop him from killing people. And there's this really fun montage where it's like that rock and roll version of the dun 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 dun, and there's actually a pretty sweet montage of her training to kill the Grinch. And it turns out that the mayor, who is the former deputy, and the sheriff have been in cahoots, and basically they've set up a website to invite to entice people to come to the town so that they can feed him to the Grinch, because it turns out that the Grinch, this is the thing, right? This is why I pointed out the fact that the Jim Carrey movie brought up what the Grinch is. You never should think about the thing about the original one is that you're never really concerned with what the Grinch is, because it just kind of implies that he's also a who. He just is a who that doesn't like Christmas. But the minute you start to the minute you put the Grinch into the real world, which this movie very much takes place in, Newville is a regular city. These are all humans. They're not who's. The minute he exists in the real world, you start to ask, what is he? What does he want? Why does he hate Christmas? And you're like, there's no way this movie's going to answer that question. And so, yeah, it turns out that his deal is he's just a monster who eats people. Like, that's it. But it's confusing.
He's an eldritch horror.
Yeah, but it's confusing because he's played by the guy who plays Art the Clown. So he's doing a lot of clowning as the Grinch. And he acts like the Jim Carrey version. It's basically the Jim Carrey version. But he doesn't talk, but he's doing the same mannerisms, and he's like acting like him as he's murdering people. And so it's like, wait, so is he sentient or is he not sentient? Is he just a mindless monster or is he not a mindless monster? It's very confusing. Why does he hate Christmas? And so then, then as it's happening, the deputy is also investigating or whatever. Yeah, he finds out that it's been this whole conspiracy, and that the sheriff's like, yeah, I'm the one who saved town. I'm the one who saved everybody by satiating this monster for 20 years and like getting rid of all the Christmas shit, because he shows up when Christmas stuff happens, and that's when he does his murdering. And yeah, there's a lot of really funny. It has a really low budget, and it just kind of looks like a YouTube video, like one of those YouTube parody videos. It looks like one of those. So there's a moment where he kills a girl by like stomping her face in. So like he goes to stomp her face, and then there's a really obvious cut, and then her face is just like grape jelly. Like it's one of those. And so
very low budget.
Very low budget. Yeah. So Cindy Lou Who trains to beat him and kill him or whatever, and it gets to the end, and it turns out that the whole reason he went on this murderous rampage, he showed up at her place. It's really confusing because the movie never explains why he hates Christmas. Like that's the thing about the original that I liked, is the motivation is very clear. He hates Christmas because they're fucking annoying, right? And it's like, okay, if the motivation is he's just a monster who wears a Santa Claus suit who eats people, why is he wearing a Santa Claus suit? So then it turns out that the twist is that because like she's fighting him or whatever, she's about to kill him, and he's like terrified, and she's like, what happened to you, basically? And it turns out that when he showed up at her place, he was nice actually, and he was a good guy, but it doesn't explain why he showed up at her place in the first place. Like it's implied that like he showed up there almost like Santa Claus, and the mom freaked out when he saw her, and she died in an accident. Like he didn't intentionally kill the mom. The mom died accidentally, and then she freaked out and went, monster, and that basically made him snap. and go crazy, and that's why he's been doing the murders. Is because he resents Christmas because of what happened with Cindy Lou Who, or Cindy You Know Who.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not really explained why he went there in the first place. And then it goes through the she basically is like, I'm so sorry and I forgive you for what you did. And he goes through his heart grows 10 sizes, like his heart is 10, and they do it. They do the whole, oh, it could be that his head wasn't screwed on just right, it could be that his shoes were too tight, or it could be that his heart was 2 sizes too small. And he forgives her, and he does the thing where he starts to become nice again. And he, in the one line he has in the movie, he looks up, he grabs his chest, and he's like, "Get back!" And he shoves her out of the way, and he lands on his chest, and then his heart explodes, and he goes poof up, because his heart grew through his eyes is too big, and explodes, and that's how he dies. And I'm like, that's fucking clever. I'm like, that's good. That's good. That's funny.
That's
like,
that's a fun way to end
I know.
it. Yeah.
Like, that was good. I like that. I the whole movie, I'm like, I wanted to hate it so much. I really did. And it was the same thing with Very Little Batman. Ironically, was I wanted to hate that so much more than I did, so I could come out here and really rage. But I actually liked it, and it's one of those like bad movies that you like because it's bad. Like, it's one of those I would show it at a party to be like a Birdemic or like a The Room, where it's like it's a movie that's bad, but that's why it's enjoyable.
Or Sharknado.
Or Sharknado, yeah, that's another good one. Yeah. Where it's like, yeah, it's fun because it's bad, and it's like, and the ending of it is really funny because the FBI show up and essentially like they get him on video, and he basically becomes like Bigfoot, and a bunch of tourists and shit like show up to start hunting him and looking for him, and it's the deputy or whatever, because the sheriff gets killed by the Grinch. The deputy, who's now the sheriff, is like, yeah, the FBI showed up and took the body and confirmed that he was dead and covered it up basically, and like pretty immediately. And they're like, oh, it's interesting to think that maybe somewhere in an alternate universe this played out differently and had a happy ending. And then the cop's like, well, I actually liked how this universe ended because he gets together with the girl. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I was like, this is fun, and I kind of proved to me when I'm not inherently against take beloved childhood thing and make it unpleasant if it's done in a way that's kind of fun. And
if it makes sense.
When they inevitably do that Steamboat Willie horror movie that's coming, I will watch it. They're gonna do it. It's gonna happen. They're gonna make a Steamboat Willie horror movie where it's Steamboat Willie and they're trapped on a boat and he's doing a murder. Like, it's gonna happen. Just accept it.
I mean, it'll be Pete that's doing the murder, and the Willie is the one that's saving them.
No. Willie will be doing the murders because somebody will think that's funny to have Mickey Mouse do a murder. That's the whole bit, is that it's Mickey Mouse doing a murder. Well, a legally distinct version of Mickey Mouse.
I mean, yeah, but Disney's such a powerhouse. They might get protective of their mouse, but people might figure they could get away with it if Pete is the one that's doing the murderer and maybe Mickey is still the hero.
But no, it's gonna be Steamboat. And I mean, well, the thing is, Disney's trying to protect the Steamboat Willie version of it by that's why they've incorporated it into their modern logo, so they can claim it's still their intellectual property. But it's coming. There's gonna be a "What if Steamboat Willie were unpleasant" movie. It's gonna be coming.
Probably.
Wow, was there anything else I had left to say about Steamboat Willie? The mean one, and the Grinch overall. I don't think so. I had a pretty fun time. I mean, they were really easy to get through. I knocked them all out in like a day. It's pretty funny. I watched the Jim Carrey one. I watched the Me one and Jim Carrey yesterday, and I watched the Benedict Cumberbatch one today. It was very easy to do them all. This has been the easiest. And yeah, once I had thought about the mean one, because I saw an advertisement for it, and I was like, once I had that thought, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be the Grinch. I'm gonna find a way to make the Grinch clever. So that.
See, for me, my Santa Clauses took all week.
Yeah,
that was a week endeavor.
When did you decide to pick? Did you just pick the horror one randomly? How did you decide to do that?
I just picked that yesterday randomly. I was scrolling through Amazon and Crave and stuff, and I saw it there, and I was like, "Oh, that's thematically different than what I've chosen."
Fair enough. Yeah, because I was like, that's interesting. That's
because
That's my dream
Because
for
I
this.
saw that like the title cover had like a Santa Claus on it, so I was like, if it's like a Santa Claus but evil, I didn't exactly know what it was going to
Yeah,
be,
but that's my hope for
and
this
so
is
I
that
was like, if
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say that's my hope for this series is that you go on to a streaming site and just pick something, any literally anything, and watch it. And that's what you did.
yeah,
That's great. That's great.
there was a few other options that I had considered, but this one just kind of, I was like, it appears like it's about Santa Claus, which means that it can tie into my other thing, which was about Santa Claus.
Yeah, yeah. So with that, I guess we'll wrap up the book reports. With that having been said, next week is, and I changed my mind. I already told Jordan, given Jordan an idea of what it was gonna be. But next week we're gonna once again we're gonna film the podcast on Sunday, and it's gonna be on New Year's Eve, and we're gonna do a New Year's Eve special, and we're gonna do two movies again. We're gonna do pick one that came out this year that you haven't seen yet. Um, One that
Okay.
came out this year that you haven't seen yet, and then your favorite movie from this year that you saw. It doesn't have to be one that came out this year, but it has to be one that you hadn't seen and you saw for the first time this year.
Okay, I'll have to think about that
Yeah,
one.
think about it. That for those of you listening who want to tune in on YouTube. Hopefully, the YouTube stream will go the full 2 hours next week. Um,
Yeah,
we won't
hopefully.
we won't get cut off, but that will be everyone else's homework assignment. Um, pick a movie, pick your favorite movie of this year. Let me know in some form, in some comment, in some place. Um, with that, we're gonna wrap up.
Um,
Sorry, Jared.
one final thing where they can tell you is if they go and join our
Oh,
Discord.
I was gonna do that. Hold on. We'll get to promoting. We'll get to promoting in a second. Hold that thought. Let me do the outro real quick.
I only mentioned it because it was a place where they could suggest things.
Right. Well, we'll get there. I'm gonna let you plug the Discord in a second. Um, that could be one of your plugs. So okay. Um, yes, that we're gonna wrap up the show with that. If you want to get in contact with the show, you can email the show at itsjustinsbusiness@gmail.com. Once again, please don't be weird. Don't send any weird emails. Also, don't try to scam me. I'm smarter than that, so don't waste your time. If you want to follow me, oh, I sorry. Also, if you want to follow the show, you can follow the show now. Plug the Discord. Sorry.
You can follow the show at our Discord, which we will have a link in the description and possibly comments below.
Yes.
In said Discord, we now have channels for suggesting things for one and or both of us to watch. So there's channels for games, for movies slash TV, for books and audiobooks, and there's an other category if you have, for example, YouTube series that you would like one and or both of us to watch and talk about on the podcast.
Yep.
Those are all great places where you can suggest things. As I think of things, I might add more channels to the Discord, but Discord in general is a good place to get in contact with us. And then if you did want to be on the podcast at a future point, if you're in the Discord, we do this through the Discord. So
Yeah.
you would just be able to join.
If you wanna be part of the podcast, yes, absolutely, you can hop in on the Discord. Um, I don't mind being surprised, but it would be nice if you gave me a heads up if you were gonna do that, just because
A little bit of warning
it
is
does
nice. Yeah.
disrupt the flow of the podcast just a little bit. But yeah, if you wanna come and chat with us about the news of the week, or you want to bring your own book report, I'm open to having guests on at any time. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, if you want to do a specifically themed book report, you can get in contact with the Discord, or yeah, you can, like I say, you can email me. It's justinsbusiness@gmail.com. We're gonna get the Discord is just the spur of the moment podcast, right? If they want to look us up on Discord,
Could
I'm gonna
be.
put the link in the description of this as well. You can do that there. If you want to get in contact, if you want to follow me other places, I'm on TikTok. I'm currently going viral on TikTok, so you can come see that happen. That's been a wild experience. But I do mostly the same thing here, but much more condensed, bite-sized chunks. Jordan, where's Jordan? Plug something.
Jordan has a Twitch, ZethGore187. I'm there every Monday to do Minecraft. If I actually have people come and hang out with me, maybe I can be encouraged to do more streaming again. I've been cutting back a bit because it's just who has the energy
So,
to be there when
are,
nobody's going to be there?
are you doing a specifically themed Christmas Minecraft Monday tomorrow?
Not specifically, just going to be playing it, hanging
If
out, you
if
spending time, you know.
will you, if people get lucky, will you sing a Christmas carol if enough people show up?
If enough people show up, I will consider singing Jingle Bells at some point during the
Okay,
time.
so there's your motivation tomorrow. At what time, Jordan? About 6 o'clock.
Uh, well, I gotta cook turkey stuff first, and then there's a video chat which is probably gonna have to happen. Maybe depending, yeah, at 5:30, 4, somewhere between 4:30 and 6:30. I'd
That's
start probably.
Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to come, come.
Yeah.
If you're free during Christmas, you're taking a lull in your Christmas family day activities. Go hang out with Jordan. He's going to be playing Minecraft. He might make a Christmas tree. Who knows? We don't know. But with that, this has been the Spur of the Moment podcast, and